Coming up on Phillies Nation, sponsored by BQ Basement Systems, Pat and Corey break down Ryne Sandberg's use of the bullpen and the decline of Jonathan Papelbon. Tommy Greene stops by to show us how it's done by the pros, and we have a health update on Cole Hamels, all ahead on Phillies Nation.
Welcome, folks. It is Phillies Nation, brought to you by BQ Basement Systems. We are here at McStew's in Levittown, just off New Falls Road. Corey Seidman and Pat Gallen with you. So let's look back at the first week, which Jimmy Rollins said, not a bad week, but it could have been better. And let's look at the bullpen first, and the way that the bullpen was used by Ryne Sandberg. Some interesting choices, especially in games 2 and 3 against Texas. In game 2, Jake Diekman blows a lead, and then Sandberg uses Mario Hollins, his first time ever pitching in the major leagues, in a tie game in the 9th inning. Then in the 3rd game against Texas, Jonathan Papelbon blows a save. They had the lead. He gives up 3 runs in the 9th inning. And from there, you realize, well, we hadn't even seen Justin DeFreitas or Brad Lincoln. Just some of the ways they were used. He mentioned that B.J. Rosenberg is really his 7th or 8th inning right-handed guy. Kind of odd.
What stuck out the most is that Ryne Sandberg showed that he only has trust in a few guys, at least early in the season, and those 2 guys were Antonio Bastardo and Jake Diekman. Jake Diekman made 4 appearances in the Phillies' first 6 games. Bastardo made 3 appearances. And while the 2 of them did have some success, Diekman ends the week with a 7.36 ERA, Bastardo doesn't give up any runs. If you look at the numbers, both of these guys walked 3 batters apiece. So they combined for 6 walks in 7 innings, and really that bullpen as a whole, 12 walks in 15 2/3 innings in the Phillies' first week. That is not going to get it done. We talked last week, we showed the ZiPS projections for Bastardo and Jake Diekman, and we said that in order to be effective, they're going to need to be below that 5.3 walk per 9 projection that ZiPS had for them. And right now, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. They need to avoid those control issues because both Bastardo and Diekman have electric stuff, and if you can't trust them to locate in the 8th inning, it's going to be a pretty long year for that Phillies bullpen.
You mentioned that electric stuff, and the Phillies just seem to have a bunch of arms that can throw hard, and they just can't command it right now. Another guy who can't command anything is Jonathan Papelbon, and it's been a bit of an issue for him over the last year plus. You're seeing him not have the same command that he had. He clearly doesn't have the same velocity he had in Boston. That's a problem, and he blows that game in the 9th inning, and you can't have your best pitcher in the relief corps blow games because they just can't afford to do that over and over again. So we're seeing a lot of problems with Jonathan Papelbon early, and also the arm angle, the arm slot. It looks like it's going a little bit lower, and if you check out PhilliesNation.com, our own John Nasula talks about that and how it is lower than it's been in previous seasons. That could be a problem down the road, but talk about Jonathan Papelbon overall.
Well, you know, the most disheartening thing, I think, in all of sports is the blown save. If you think about that game on Wednesday against the Rangers, you know, you have a 2-run lead there. The Phillies dominated the Rangers for all of that series and come away with 1 win. But what sticks out with Papelbon is the velocity, like you mentioned. When the Phillies signed him, he was coming off a 95-mile-per-hour average fastball season. Then that decreased to 93.8, then 92.0, and now this season it's at 91.3. And we've seen the result of that in the first week. Jonathan Papelbon, in the game that he blows against the Rangers, has Adrian Beltre 0-2, tries to throw a high fastball, doesn't get it high enough, and maybe if that pitch is 95, 96, Beltre's fouling it off.
The old Papelbon.
The old Papelbon. The new Papelbon, though, he's not going to be able to get away with that the same way he didn't get away with it to Mitch Moreland several batters later. So he's going to need to mix in more splitters, and he's kind of going to have to kind of reinvent himself. This is why you don't commit 4 years and $50 million to a 30-year-old closer.
Yeah, that command is going to be, it's going to have to be as crisp as it's ever been for Jonathan Papelbon because, like you said, he's not going to blow pitches by guys anymore, so he's got to be pinpoint with that. And then also, he talks about pretty much throws his coaching staff and his infield under the bus after that game, saying they weren't lined up correctly, they should have been going for the double play. Not exactly what you want to hear from your expensive closer after a loss.
And it's funny because A.J. Burnett on Sunday when he struggled, his comments were the exact opposite. A.J. Burnett took full ownership of what happened, and that's what you want to see Jonathan Papelbon do. Instead of assigning the blame to the infield alignment, you know, Jonathan Papelbon put 6 men on base in that inning. It was equally his fault.
Carlos Ruiz has had a pretty good start, and he's the guy obviously catching all of these pitchers, but let's talk about him offensively. It's been a great start to this season, and really it's been a great couple of years for Carlos Ruiz. He's really matured at the plate, and when he came up, and if you remember back to the 08 season, he was just sort of there. He's the eighth place hitter, and you kind of look at him as an afterthought in that lineup. But now he is a big integral part of this lineup. He's an on-base machine, just ridiculous from Carlos Ruiz.
Really, Carlos Ruiz is one of the most complete catchers in baseball from a game-calling aspect, defensively, offensively, and Ryne Sandberg made a comment over the weekend that was really interesting. He said that he thinks that Carlos Ruiz adapts to whichever spot in the batting order that he's placed. And that's true, because when he batted second, you saw last week, he was concerned with setting the table. When he shows that he bats fourth, fifth, sixth, he's concerned with driving in runs. And at the beginning of his career, when he was batting eighth, he was excellent at turning the lineup over, which is a key skill in the National League. But when you look at Chuch's numbers, he really belongs in the two-hole right now, especially against left-handed pitchers. And pull up this graphic from 2011 to 2014 against left-handed pitching. Jimmy Rollins hit 234, 291 OBP, 329 slugging. Carlos Ruiz's batting average was 12 points higher than Jimmy's on-base percentage, okay? So Chuch has shown that he's one of the elite performers against left-handed pitching. Why not bat that guy second? No, he doesn't have the speed of Jimmy Rollins, but he has the on-base skills you need at the top of the order.
And also, how many pitches does he see in a bat? In that opening game against the Chicago Cubs, the Phillies saw 171 pitches from the Cubs. Carlos Ruiz is a big part of why they are stretching out these guys and getting into the opposite team's bullpen. And finally, Cole Hamels had a start in Clearwater. He's starting to get back on track, and the numbers with his start from Clearwater: 4 innings, 2 runs, struck out 4, but he did give up 2 home runs to Dwight Smith Jr. Yes, that Dwight Smith. Threw 50 pitches, 33 for strikes. When do you see Cole possibly returning? It's looking like maybe the end of the month, early May?
Well, it looks like he's about 2 weeks away from his final rehab start, which could come April 21, 22, as my colleague Jim Salisbury of CSN Philly pointed out, and that would put Hamels on pace to either return in the final game of the Phillies' 10-game West Coast road trip, the series against Arizona, or the brief 2-game home series against the Mets, April 29 and 30. I think you're probably going to see Hamels return in that April 29-30 series against the Mets, because I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to fly him out to the West Coast after he's coming off that injury, maybe just keep him comfortable. And, he's notoriously struggled against the Mets, so that's something to keep an eye on.
And coming up here on Phillies Nation, we'll talk with Dr. Lenny Roberts from Summit Spine and Wellness about the shoulder and what Cole Hamels could be going through with the tendinitis. Also, take a look here. Some photos coming in from Wrigley Field in Chicago from Phillies fans just like you. We're coming right back here on Phillies Nation, brought to you by BQ Basement Systems.
I'm Brian Quinn. I'm the owner of BQ Basement Systems. We've grown to be the leader in the waterproofing industry in the Philadelphia region, and we love our Phillies down here. Our goal is when a customer comes away dealing with us, that customer at the end of the day is going to say, wow. I'm Brian Quinn of BQ Basement Systems, and we've been in business since 1997.
McStew's Irish Sports Pub in Levittown is a great place for sports fans. Come out and watch your favorite Philly teams on our 18 high-definition TVs. We've been voted Best of Bucks for our game day atmosphere, our drink specials, and our one-of-a-kind wings. And if you can't stick around, stop by our takeout store to pick up your favorite domestics, imports, and craft beers from all around the world. Visit us at facebook.com/McStews for info on all of our upcoming events. McStew's Irish Sports Pub at Route 413 and New Falls Road.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness Challenge like Dan, who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Hi, I'm Tommy Greene. Today we're going to talk about the difference between the two-seam fastball and the four-seam fastball. Okay, the four-seam fastball, it uses the seams on the baseball like this. All right, you go across the laces either way you want around the side. I like doing it like this because the seam comes down to my fingers because one finger's shorter than the other. And when I throw the baseball, it comes out like this and it catches all 4 seams. That's why it's called a 4-seamer. 2-seamer is like this. You go in between the seams, you can go like this. That's the way I used to throw mine, and throw it this way. You can back it up. You can back it up to either seam, whichever one's comfortable to you. And throw it. This ball tends to maybe move a little bit more and have a little more action to it. This one right here is a little bit more for velocity they talk about. This is the way I threw a lot of mine. I threw a lot of 4-seam fastballs when I pitched. So that's the difference between the 2-seam and 4-seam fastball.
That was On the Mound with Tommy Greene, brought to you by Village Catering. We'll be seeing a lot of Tommy Greene throughout this entire season. Now we go to a segment we like to call By the Numbers. And obviously the Phillies offense got off to a huge start in Texas, 14 runs in the first game. But let's talk about the Phillies offense against left-handed pitching. It's been a bit of a struggle in previous seasons, but not now.
Yeah, wasn't that the knock entering the 2014 season,
was.
is that the Phillies weren't going to be able to hit lefty pitchers with their left-handed heavy lineup? Well, through 1 week, there have been few teams in baseball better against southpaws than the Phillies, who rank 3rd in batting average, 2nd in on-base percentage, 3rd in slugging, and 1st in home runs against lefties. And it hasn't just been a few guys. It's not just Marlon Byrd and Carlos Ruiz doing their thing. It's Ryan Howard with 2 extra base hits against lefties. Chase Utley, who hit .219 against lefties the last 3 seasons, which kind of gets lost in Howard's struggles versus lefties. He's also performing well. So if the Phillies can hold their own against left-handed pitching, this is going to be a successful offensive season.
Mentioning Ryan Howard, I think it's huge that Howard has good at bats against left-handed pitching. It's not always going to, be a home run, or it's not always going to be a hit, but if he can just put together decent enough at bats against left-handed pitching, that's really all you can ask for from him this season, because now the leg's healthy, so he's putting together more and better at bats. And also Chase Utley, who you mentioned, what can't the guy do? And against left-handed pitching, it doesn't even matter. You got to love what you see from him. Also, I don't know if you love seeing this, but the Miami Marlins are off to a hot start. And 2 guys in particular, they're 2 stars, Giancarlo Stanton and Jose Fernandez, the cornerstones of that franchise. Man, they are good.
Talk about unpredictability. If I would have told you that the Miami Marlins lead Major League Baseball in runs scored through 1 week, would you have believed me last week?
Absolutely not.
No, and Giancarlo Stanton's gotten off to a tremendous start. He already has 2 homers and 12 RBIs through 1 week of games. And Jose Fernandez, I mean, there's probably not a better offensive pitching 1-2 punch in all of baseball in terms of youth, cost effectiveness, and just raw talent. Jose Fernandez is already at 2-0, 0.71 ERA. Opponents hitting 174, looks poised to win a Cy Young this year.
Giancarlo Stanton one of these years is going to win a home run title. But do you believe that this is sustainable with the Marlins? Because they're so young, there is the talent there, but can they keep it all together for an entire year?
It's a really good question. And what I would say is that the Marlins have a lot of power in the bullpen, which you need, power arms. And there are a couple under-the-radar guys on this Miami team. Christian Yelich, the outfielder. Marcell Ozuna, the right fielder, who I think is going to be the next Alfonso Soriano. He has a really strong arm in right field, and he's a power bat. So I think they have the pieces in place. They're probably going to win 75 games this year. They're going to be better than people thought. But this is a team to look at the next few years moving forward, especially if Nathan Eovaldi in that number 2 spot in the rotation continues to progress.
Let's go out to the NL West with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they've got a hell of a 3-4 punch in the middle of that order. Obviously, Paul Goldschmidt, but also they bring in Mark Trumbo this year, putting on a power display.
Yeah, I wasn't really high on the Mark Trumbo trade this past offseason because he's a guy who has like a 300 on-base percentage, strikes out like 175 times a year. But could anybody have had a better first week than he did? He had 5 homers, 13 RBIs protecting Paul Goldschmidt, who Paul Goldschmidt is going to be, a perennial all-star, perennial MVP candidate. He's hitting 400, just recently had a 25-game hit streak snap. So Paul Goldschmidt and Mark Trumbo are going to form probably the best right-handed power duo in the National League.
All right, let's go to our fantasy baseball segment. It's brought to you by Draft Street, of course, the future of fantasy sports with free one-day leagues. And let's look at our players from last week, highlight a few of them. You had Brad Miller, Colton Wong, and Sergio Santos from last week. How'd they do?
Yeah, I'm happy with the Brad Miller pick. And my reasoning there was that shortstop is a very thin position. And Brad Miller had 2 homers and 5 RBIs in the first week of the season. I can't imagine too many shortstops outproduced him. It was yet another multi-homer game for Brad Miller. So, this is the kind of guy you can plug in moving forward here. If instead you were using Derek Jeter at shortstop or Jimmy Rollins at shortstop, maybe go with the young guy instead.
And this week we've got 3 players to look out for as far as fantasy is concerned. Who are your 2? I've got 1.
Okay, one that I'm going with is David Hale, starting pitcher for the Braves. David Hale is going to face the Mets later this week. The Mets obviously not an offensive juggernaut. David Hale showed a really good sinker in his first start of the season. 5 scoreless innings, 4 strikeouts, so he's a guy to look at moving forward. And the other guy I have is Grady Sizemore. Okay, Grady Sizemore everybody forgot about him over these last couple years where he's been hurt every year. Well, he's finally reemerged and stayed healthy for the Red Sox, playing some outfield, leading off while Shane Victorino's on the DL. And with his on-base skills, his ability to steal bases, and he has double-digit home run power, I think he's going to score a lot of runs in that Boston lineup, and that matters for fantasy.
And keep an eye on James Paxton from the Seattle Mariners. First 5 career starts, 4-0, a 1.16 ERA, 30 strikeouts in 31 innings. You're going to want to know about that guy. That's it for our fantasy baseball segment. It is brought to you by DraftStreet.com. The future of fantasy sports. Visit DraftStreet.com. Use the promo code Phillies Nation to sign up for a free one-day fantasy league where you can win real cash prizes. More with Phillies Nation coming right back.
McStew's Irish Sports Pub in Levittown is a great place for sports fans. Come out and watch your favorite Philly teams on our 18 high-definition TVs. We've been voted Best of Bucks for our game day atmosphere, our drink specials, and our one-of-a-kind wings. And if you can't stick around, stop by our takeout store to pick up your favorite domestics, imports, and craft beers from all around the world. Visit us at facebook.com/McStews for info on all of our upcoming events. McStew's Irish Sports Pub at Route 413 and New Falls Road.
I'm Brian Quinn. I'm the owner of BQ Basement Systems. We've grown to be the leader in the waterproofing industry in the Philadelphia region, and we love our Phillies down here. Our goal is when a customer comes away dealing with us, that customer at the end of the day is going to say, wow. I'm Brian Quinn of BQ Basement Systems, and we've been in business since 1997.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Phillies Nation is presented by BQ Basement Systems, the Philadelphia region's premier basement contractor.
Welcome back to PNTV, sponsored by BQ Basement Systems. I'm Ryan Williams here with Pat and Corey for our Batters Inbox, where Pat and Corey are going to debate a few topics chosen by you, the fans, and I'll pick the winner at the end of it. Our first question says, which Philly has impressed you throughout the first week of the season or so? Corey?
I'm going to go Marlon Byrd for several reasons, okay? Marlon Byrd's offense we all know about, okay? He's coming off the best offensive season of his career, but mostly for the defense. And right field defense is something the Phillies sorely lacked last season. First week of the season, Fangraphs.com keeps this stat, plays made out of zone, which means the plays that Marlon Byrd makes out of the assigned zone the right fielder plays. 5 plays he made the first week. That's second in all of baseball to Yasiel Puig, already showing off. Ryan Sandberg made a comment over the weekend that Marlon Byrd made a couple plays that no Phillies right fielder makes last season. I completely agree. He's been impressive.
You can throw all those fancy numbers at me, whatever you want to do. I'm going with the guy you just mentioned. That's Ryan Sandberg, the newest Phillies manager. And why not? He's doing what he wants to do. This is no longer Charlie Manuel's team. He's not afraid to change the lineup in any way he sees fit. He's using guys the way they should be used. He's using the bullpen a little bit screwy here early in the season, but I think as he gets comfortable with the guys that are out there, he's going to be able to settle them into a zone, especially when he gets a guy like Mike Adams back as the 8th inning guy. They'll get the guys in the roles that they need to be in, but I just love what he brings to the table, and guys respect the hell out of Ryan Sandberg. It's Ryan Sandberg, it's not Marlon Byrd, come on.
I'm going to have to go with Corey on that one. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Byrd this season, and I hope he continues what he did with the Pirates last year.
Point for Corey, I guess.
Fancy numbers win.
Our next question is, should Mike Adams be given the 8th inning role upon his return from the injury? Corey?
I'm going to go no, and the reason that I don't think he should automatically be given 8th inning duty is because he didn't look that great the last couple times we saw him. He was throwing in the mid to high 80s. That's not the Mike Adams we've seen in the past, who has a cutter in the low 90s, a fastball a little bit sharper than that. So I think you need to ease him back in, maybe get him into some 6th and 7th inning duty. While the Phillies do need some right-handed relief help, I don't think Mike Adams is the answer right away.
That's funny. I disagree with you. I think Mike Adams absolutely should be the 8th inning guy, and here's why. Because they don't have an 8th inning guy. They need someone to fill in that role. Ryan Sandberg has come out and said that B.J. Rosenberg is his guy. He's not an 8th inning pitcher, at least not yet. Now, that's not to say he can't be, but we know that based on the numbers in the past, and I know it's not the past anymore, but Mike Adams has been an 8th inning reliever and one of the best in baseball. And you paid this guy 2 years, $12 million, you may as well use him in that spot. So when Mike Adams is healthy, if he's completely healthy, and if that fastball can hit 90 miles an hour, he's the 8th inning guy for sure.
I have to keep going with Corey on this one.
Looks like I've already clinched a win here.
This is insane. All right, let's do one more then.
All right, our next question comes from Donald in Philly. He wants you guys to play MLB commissioner. What's the first move you would make to help the game? Pat?
Well, I'm not going to win on this one, I can tell you that right away, but I'm going to go with a DH in the National League. I know it's crazy. I know it might actually piss some people off, but in the American League, they're not getting rid of the designated hitter. It's just not going to happen because the DH can make a lot of money. See David Ortiz. So why not just even the playing field? You're seeing interleague play happen more and more each season. Now the NL is going to AL Parks. It doesn't even matter anymore. Just bring the DH to the National League. I know that baseball purists want to say, oh, get rid of it. It's not going anywhere because it's a position that makes money, and agents make money on that position. So it's not going anywhere. DH in the National League, as crazy as it might sound.
You know, I actually like that idea, and it's not. I don't think it's going to work just because I prefer the strategy element that the pitcher batting brings.
I do too.
I would rather see a DH bat than a pitcher, but at the same time, I like double switches. I like managers having to finagle their way around.
I agree, but it's not going to go anywhere. Right. So what's the point?
My rule, it's a little bit different. I want a day game every day of the week. Okay, I want at least one assigned day game 7 days a week because it's going to be competing against daytime television, which, I mean, it's going to be competing against nothing pretty much. So I want at least one day game every day, a 105 start, a 305 start. Just give me something to watch in the middle of the day if I'm off work.
But then you'll miss your soap operas in the middle of the day.
That's true, that's true.
Well, I'm going with Pat on that one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I still win though, 2-1.
Yeah,
You
he does.
do. Well, that wraps up our Batters Inbox segment. Make sure you leave them for us on our Facebook and Twitter page. Stay tuned for more Phillies news.
At Village Catering, we're committed to making your event one to remember. We are family owned and operated, and for more than 30 years, we've made our mark on Philadelphia as a go-to caterer for all of your special events. We're also the official caterer of the Flyers and Soul and the preferred caterer of Temple Athletics. We will work with you at customizing your off-site event, or you can have your event at our on-site facility, the Cottage Green, so that you'll feel like a guest at your own party. Contact us at 215-698-1117 or villagecatering.com, and we'll help you make a memory today.
I'm Brian Quinn. I'm the owner of BQ Basement Systems. We've grown to be the leader in the waterproofing industry in the Philadelphia region, and we love our Phillies down here. Our goal is when a customer comes away dealing with us, that customer at the end of the day is going to say yes. I'm Brian Quinn of BQ Basement Systems, and we've been in business since 1997.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness Challenge like Dan, who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
Phillies Nation is filmed each week at McStew's Irish Pub in Levittown, PA. Here's what's going on this week. Welcome back to PNTV, brought to you by BQ Basement Systems. We're hanging out here at McStew's in Levittown. And we talked about Cole Hamels' shoulder injury earlier in the show. We also talked with Dr. Lenny Roberts of Summit Spine and Wellness about that type of shoulder injury.
It's certainly going to be a question that's going to unveil itself as the season progresses here, but it can be something that's hopefully resolved as soon as Cole gets back out on the mound. But it can be an ongoing issue, and that's why they're trying to be proactive with it and take care of it by having him rest initially. Here's the shoulder, so this is a straight-on view, and here's the clavicle or the collarbone. Here's the rotator cuff, which most people are familiar with. That's actually a series of 4 different muscles that go over the shoulder joint. And here we have the bicipital, the bicep. So there's 2 heads of the bicep, a long head and a short head. And this is where the tendon portion, where the white is, that's where that muscle becomes the tendon there. Tendinitis is an inflammation, so anytime you have itis at the end of a word, it's an inflammation of that area. So tendon is the portion of a muscle where it inserts into the bone. So the tendinitis is an inflammation or an inflammatory response in that area. The throwing mechanics and the motion of the arm with the rotator cuff and the bicipital tendon can definitely come into play with an overuse or repetitive motion, repetitive strain, building up irritation in that area. So, certainly a huge concern for pitchers and players of all positions when you have that ongoing repetitive stress and repetitive motion on that area. As pitchers, they continue to use their arm ongoing on a regular basis throughout the years. It's more wear and tear that builds up in a joint. And you look at someone like Roy Halladay, who unfortunately had significant shoulder issues over the course of his career. It's very common for the shoulder joint to absorb a lot of stress and tension and potentially wear down prematurely because of the velocity and the mechanics and the force that they're exerting on that joint.
Thank you to Dr. Lenny Roberts from Summit Spine and Wellness Center in Roxborough. And now we go down on the farm, talk about some of the best prospects in the Phillies organization. And Jay Floyd, our own Phillies Nation minor league contributor, put together his top 25 prospects. We look at the top 10 and some of the big names that are in the organization, starting with number 10, that's Severino Gonzalez. He was the Paul Owens Award winner for the best minor league pitcher in the organization. He had a breakout campaign last year. Also, number 8 on this list, Kenny Giles. He's a guy that we talked about last week, and he's a guy that we're going to have to keep an eye on all year long. He had 2 saves in the first week of the season, and he's routinely hitting the 100-mile-per-hour mark on the radar gun, so he's a name that we're definitely going to have to keep up with this year. Who are a couple of guys on that top 10 list that you're looking at?
Number 6, Ethan Martin sticks out to me. He obviously was with the Phillies last season. He's down right now with a triceps injury, but I think Ethan Martin is going to be a crucial piece of the Phillies bullpen here moving forward. Another guy I'm looking at is number 3 on Jay's list, and that's J.P. Crawford, the Phillies' first-round pick a couple years ago, the cousin of Carl Crawford, who really raked in his first season as an 18-year-old in rookie ball, hit over 300. And, he's a complete shortstop. He has an arm. He can hit for average. He has some speed. A much more complete shortstop than Freddie Galvis, and I think he will be the Phillies' shortstop of the future.
And, of course, we have to talk about the top 2 in the Phillies organization, Jesse Biddle and Michael Franco. Franco is number 1 on Jay Floyd's list. Do you see, and we can focus in on Franco, do you see him more as a cornerstone of the franchise, or could he possibly be trade bait?
Well, it's interesting because Maikel Franco, obviously, if you're the Phillies, you want to keep as many young guys as possible because you've traded away many in recent years. But right now, he's blocked at third base and first base, the 2 positions he plays. He's a right-handed bat that the Phillies need to emerge. He has a lot of power, soft hands at third base that impressed Larry Bow in spring training. But unless he firmly supplants Cody Ashley, or Cody Ashley struggles, or Ryan Howard goes down with an injury, I don't know what Maikel Franco's role is with this major league team over the next year.
Biddle, Franco, do we see any of them this season?
Yeah, I think you'll see one of them. I don't know who it's going to be. I think that Biddle could be a guy that emerges in the rotation if the Phillies need some help because they don't have a lot of depth there. But it wasn't encouraging that Jesse Biddle got out to a rough start. Yeah. And he's coming off a pretty tumultuous 2013 season.
All right, let's go to our Twitter trivia question of the week, and you can play along at Phillies Nation on Twitter. Corey, what is the question this week?
Okay, the Phillies used 9 right fielders last season. It was an ugly season for the Phils in right field, especially defensively. So the trivia question this week is I want you to name all 9 right fielders that the Phillies used in 2013.
All right, with the first person that checks back at Phillies Nation on Twitter with the hashtag PNTrivia will win a little something. So keep along with us all year long. And next week on this program, check back to see if you were the winner. That's it for us here on Phillies Nation, brought to you by BQ Basement Systems, of course. Thank you to McStew's. Come out to Levittown. Check out some Phillies games here on their flat screens. And thank you to everyone involved in this show, 2020, Brian Michael, and of course Ryan and my man Corey here. I am Pat Gallen. That's it for Phillies Nation this week. We will talk to you soon.